Welcome to Love Punch, where I'm challenging leaders, entrepreneurs, and creatives to make a lasting impact. I'm your host, Ruby Fremont, and I'm here as a catalyst for you, the new generation of thought leaders. Join me each week as I dive into raw conversations with real impact makers.
Hey everyone, I'm back with another incredible guest and a dear friend of mine. Joel Brown is the founder of the #1 motivation website, addictedtosuccess.com, and he's achieved over 142 million views worldwide over the last 7 years. He was offered multiple million-dollar offers for his website and turned them all down to continue to grow his company. Joel has a social media following of over 2.5 million across all social media channels, and he travels the world teaching thousands of people how to stand in their vision for success so they can turn their dreams into a reality. Joel is featured in the new hit movie Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Joel is also the host of the Addicted to Success podcast that has achieved more than 2.2 million downloads, featuring thought leaders such as Tony Robbins, Deepak Chopra, Les Brown, Jack Canfield, Gabby Bernstein, Gary Vee, and many more. May I add, including myself. Joel Brown is skilled in the area of self-development coaching, NLP, and speaking and mindset coaching. He has built multiple six-figure online businesses and is skilled in building massive online communities, monetizing online brands, and networking with the world-class elite, which positions him in a unique place of high demand when it comes to coaching others on what it takes to be in the top 1% online and offline. Joel, that is quite the impressive bio.
I don't think I need to say anything more. I think you introduced me really well. Thank you so much. So, Ruby, I just got to say a huge thank you. I remember you and I were speaking at Epic in San Diego. It was the first time we connected, and we've connected many times after that for many reasons, but one of them would really have to be that, I think that we see each other, and we see what we're up to. And I just really am really proud of the leaps and bounds that you've taken as an individual. And I feel blessed to be here today with you on this podcast. And I cannot wait to step in and really share what I have to offer for your audience. So thank you for giving me this platform. I really appreciate you.
Thank you, Joel. I'm just going to take a moment to fully receive that. And I really, really appreciate you coming here today to share with our audience what you have to share, because I know one of the topics that we had talked about was vision, and you are someone who is so congruent with your own personal journey with your vision. So I'm excited to hear what you have to share on this topic.
Yeah, look, vision is a very interesting topic that we could go into. And the reason being is because I feel like, people hear that word quite often, but they don't quite get it, right? Like I remember in high school, we talked about goals, setting career goals, and I associated that with schoolwork. And so I avoided writing anything down for the longest time. But I was introduced to the vision process 8 years ago. I was working for a sales company. I was sitting in this room, and there was a guy there with a Bulgari watch, a nice flashy white button-up shirt, standing there commanding attention from the front of the room. And this guy was, goes by the name of Jordan Belfort, the Wolf of Wall Street. And this isn't Leonardo DiCaprio. This is the original Wolf of Wall Street.
The real one.
So, yeah, exactly. And he introduced this idea of vision casting, and he asked me, Joel, do you have goals? And at the time, to be honest, I was going through a transition. I left the music industry and I came into sales to just make some money. But I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I didn't have any hard set goals in. And I said, no. And he said, great. That's totally fine, because goals are good for short-term achievements, but a vision is great for long-term success. And just that in itself really shifted my perspective and put me in a place of fun and excitement and power when it came to writing out my dreams for the future. And he asked me, what would the ultimate version of you look like 10 years from now? How would that feel? What kind of people would you surround yourself with? And in the beginning, it was a little bit tough, I'm going to be honest with you. And it is, even when I teach the process for anyone, it's a little bit uncomfortable writing it out. But I start with dot points, right? So you have dot points. You're right. I call it the skeleton of the vision, which is just the real core things that you're looking at focusing on 10 years from now. Just think in a space of, anything is possible. It's limitless, boundless, and writing from that place. And once I wrote down, I think probably about 10, 12 points, I started getting really excited. And I started writing more and more and more. And I remember writing just for my 10-year vision. And just the 10th year, I wrote 6 pages.
Wow.
Okay. And everyone's going to be different. So I'm not putting the pressure on anyone here on this podcast today to have to, map the whole thing out in one day. It doesn't work like that. This is a journey. This is a process. But I just really committed to mastery in the field that I'm in. And as a matter of fact, I wrote out that I'd be speaking and traveling the world and running the top self-development website. All these things they'll turn into reality, essentially. Some things turn into reality, not looking exactly like what I put in the vision. And I also was gifted a lot of surprises along the way that opened more doors that helped me to get there faster.
Yeah.
I remember Peter Voog, he's the author of 6 Months to Six Figures. A few years ago, he asked me, Joel, so where are you right now in your 10-year vision? And I did a quick mental check-in. I said, you know what, Peter, it's interesting. We're 5 years in, and I'm already living in my 10th year. Like it was like 90% into my 10th year. And that's the power of a vision. It disciplines you. It chooses your friends for you. It teaches you what to say yes to. It teaches you what to say no to. It guides you along the way. And so that process I've been teaching for many years now. I've been split testing different structures and frameworks. I've been bringing in elements and taking things out and just really focusing on mastering and refining this vision process. So it's the ultimate game plan and blueprint for everyday people to turn them into visionary leaders.
Right. But one of the things that you mentioned when you were sharing this was that to write down things from a place of like anything is possible. And I feel as though that is the number one stumbling block for so many people when it comes to writing your vision, right? The first thing you do is you start to go into the limits and you write from this place of being small. So even that in itself is a major feat to be able to write from that place of like, let me just give myself permission to explore this space of limitless possibilities.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know why a lot of people struggle with that? It's because they're basing it off their past. Your past is only good for the lessons and resources you can glean from it. It's not everything, right? We've gone there. It's done. They're the artifacts in our mind. But really, I would ask this question: what would you love to create? Which is more important than what did I do and what happened in the past, or why can't I? Like, never ask yourself, oh, why is this happening? Why is it happening like this? Never. Ask, what can I do about it? What can I create? Right? So just shifting the way that you speak, because your words become worlds. What you speak can come into existence if you say it enough, right?
I love what you just shared. Your words become worlds.
Yeah. So a big part of it is really just like, what can I create now with this blank canvas? So many people are living in destruction or stagnation instead of stepping into creation.
So for these people who are, I'm positive we're going to have listeners that are listening and saying like, well, I don't even know what I want to create, because they've never really allowed themselves to dive into that space, right? They've always lived from that space of like what I have done in the past or what I have experienced in the past. So they haven't even played in this space before. So how does one even start to get into this mindset of like, wait, I can create anything I fucking want to create? Like, how does someone step into that?
That's a great question. A lot of it starts with spilling there's always like surface crap that's on the top of your mind, right? If I put it in that way, I don't know how else I could explain it, but there's like things that float around on the surface, and they most of the time they're not really important, or they're not really useful. So a lot of it is like, that's why the writing down process is so important. Putting pen to pad, having a mind-body connection, like really putting it out on the paper and sifting through the stuff, the ideas, and getting it out till it becomes a solid thing. And so I think a lot of people will just by default fall into this negative space of like, oh, I can't do it, or I don't know. That's because there's uncertainty. The way to create certainty is to have a strategy, to map it out. And we never 110% have certainty. I'm not expecting that from anyone. But what I do love to do is like go, here's where you are, here's where you want to be or will be. You just tell me you desire it this much, you will be there, right? How do we close the gap? How do we bring that in a bit, right? And the way to do that is to really map it out, to get a strategy down. When you get clear on it, this is the thing. a lot of people talk about the law of attraction, and I get it. And yes, we need to match frequency to receive and achieve these things. But a lot of what is really effective in this space is the law of intention. Set it and get it, right? Like write it out and go for it. I know you, Ruby, you can be very practical. It's great. You do this awesome dance where you have your spiritual thing going on, but you're very practical. You're an action taker, no excuses. And that's why you do so well in what you do.
Thank you.
Right. So it's not all up in the air. You grab it and bring it down to earth and go, let's like use this. Right.
Right.
So that's the key there. And I have a number of questions that were asked to me. Jordan Belfort asked me 3 questions, and then I always throw in the 4th one. He asked me, what are you good at? Okay. What are you good at? And the reason why, and I'll break it down so your audience can understand. When you're good at something, you get feedback, right? So you get feedback that what you're doing is moving the needle. Okay. So this is about progression. When we progress, we're happy, we're fulfilled in that process, right? Ultimately, we're chasing fulfillment in life. If you want the ultimate fulfillment, live in your values as often as possible.
Right.
Be aligned with what inspires you most. Be in spirit. That's where the word inspiration comes from, right? So align yourself with your values. What are you good at, right? What do you love? Same thing, values, right? What you're good at will show up when you're doing what you love. Over and over and over and over again, consistency. But don't fool yourself. Don't live in a fantasy, because it can slowly turn into a nightmare if you keep thinking that just because you love it, you're going to be great at it. You have to put in the work. There has to be consistency, and you have to set the intention when you step into this space to say, I'm willing to commit to mastery to really achieve, right? So many people don't commit to mastery. What they do is they dabble. I'll do a little bit of this, do a little bit of that, a little bit of that. And then, 5 years, 10 years down the line, they're basically 1 year, 2 year into building a business, 5 or 10 years down the line, right? So, I mean, look, I'm 8 years into my business. I haven't even hit my mastery point yet either. I'm only just getting started. This is a warm-up season right now.
Yeah.
So you got, what are you good at, right? What do you love is the second one. What are you most passionate about, right? And then what solution will you bring to the world? Okay. So the reason why this is so important is we have to do things that give our life meaning. We've got to be part of the bigger going on in life, the bigger goings on, because it gives our life meaning. It shows us that what we're doing actually matters. Okay?
And that's the thing that people are seeking so much of nowadays. Meaning.
So much, because they're trying everything else and then they're coming up short. And the significance, the validation, the fancy Instagram pics, they're great. But on top of that, what are you bringing to the world that's creating impact in a positive way? Like, how are you of service, right? Show me your heart.
Yeah.
I don't want to see your likes. Show me your heart.
Right.
Right. Yeah. So there's what are you good at? What do you love? And what solution we bring to the world? And then the 4th one I throw in now is, how am I going to make money from this? And this is like the elephant in the room. Some people are like, I don't know, the money conversation.
People avoid
you need
it
to make money.
like the plague, right? Because
they avoid it like the plague.
They feel like, oh, if I'm doing something good, or if I'm serving people, or doing, creating a positive influence on our planet, then, I can't talk about the money. It doesn't make any fucking sense.
When you value yourself, you put a value on it, and you charge. You have to. You absolutely have to. I don't know any business that's successful that hasn't got a system in place that allows for it to reinvest back in itself. Nothing turns over till money comes into the hand.
Yeah.
Nothing does. Has to come in. Even with charities, even with these businesses that seem so selfless in that sense, if you want to use that word, they still need money coming in.
Yeah. I mean, it's all energy. It's what keeps everything going, right?
Absolutely.
And if you are here with a big ass mission that you want to bring forth, but you don't have the means to do it, then what are you doing? The more money you make, the more impact becomes possible, because you now have expanded the means to create the impact. Yeah.
Oh, we could go so deep with this. We can jump into money. We can jump into time, the value of you. There's so much here. But yes, you're right. Absolutely right.
Yeah. So those 4 questions for our listeners, that's a really fantastic starting point for you guys to really start honing in on your vision. Right. And I love question number 4, because I can already feel the energy of people listening being like, ooh, I don't want to talk about the money. But also, like, in this space, to our listeners, where you're at right now, like, question, have you even taken into consideration these things in building your vision? I found that through my work with clients and meeting other people in this industry, so many people are carrying like other people's visions. They haven't really taken the time to figure out or hone in on what is their vision. What is the thing that they are here to do? Have you run into that?
I run into it all the time. Not personally, not myself,
right,
but
not
I run into clients that are struggling with this. I call it chasing unicorns, right? You're chasing somebody else's definition of success. It's not for you, right? You get there, you realize that seat was not for you, it's for someone else. There's two things that is troubling about that. It's a bit of a worry for me when I hear this, is that you can actually adopt somebody else's definition of success, and what happens is you could actually hit it and achieve it, but you get to the top, you achieve it, and you go do a little celebration, and you realize like, oh shit, but what's next? What do I do now? All right, because you were chasing somebody else's. You weren't creating enough within your own realm to excite yourself because you were always looking for that external to inspire you, which is faulty. And then the second thing that could happen is you get there and it's great and everything's all good, but then now you have to cast another vision that shadows the last. And if you haven't been in the practice of casting a vision that's effective, you're having to start your own game all over again. Right? So it's really important to have your own unique thing. It's funny, like the more that I stay in my own lane, when I write out everything in my vision, the more I realize that it's so unique to me that I really don't care what everybody else is doing. I care about people, but I don't care about what they're doing because I know ultimately it serves in no way for me to fulfill my vision. My vision is on me. And that's a responsibility thing that so many people are like running away from. They spend more time in reward than responsibility. And then when they get to a point where like, shit, man, life isn't working for me. This isn't happening. It's like, yeah, because you were just like in reward all the time. If you jumped in and out, because I'm a fan of jumping in and out. I think it's great. Responsibility, smash it, get in the zone, focus, jump into reward, celebrate. We need to do that. We need balance. But those that just stay in reward all the time, it becomes a hell of a lot harder when they have to be responsible because the world comes collapsing on them with all these responsibilities and they haven't been used to handling that. So everything seems so darker and heavier if they haven't been in responsibility. So I would say make sure you have a list each day that is, what am I responsible for and what am I jumping into today that I'm going to reward myself with? And I've got to a point where I like mentally have that in my mind, and I have, goals and things written down on the board. And Ben Kelly and Emil Steenveld are out here. We stay in this amazing villa out here in Bali, and we really, push each other to stick to our goals. And, we have a lot of fun while we're at it. We've set up an environment where we have a nice 25 meter pool. We've got a basketball ring. We've got a floaty for the pool. We've got a pool table. And we create a space where it's creative, fun, and inspiring. So we can get our work done. We can also enjoy it too. Yeah. So your environment has a 40% effect on your mental state. Yeah. Which is crazy because I always used to say mind over matter. But I absolutely believe now that it's true.
Yeah. It's make sure you're in the right environment. You have to stay on top of it. Everything is energy. Everything has an impact on us. It's not just the people that we hang out with. It's the space that we've created for ourselves. Like, do you have an expansive enough space to create this expansive vision? Or are you just restricting yourself and constricting yourself? I've just recently experienced that because we just recently moved into a much larger home, and it's been incredible just to feel the expansion that is coming from this. But it's so much of this, again, this is part of personal responsibility too, is being responsible for your space. And I just wrote a post about this today, and it's about how many people in this industry are actually bypassing their personal responsibility, it being them, right? They want to position themselves as an expert, as a leader, as, the top coach or the top whatever it is, but they're not doing what they need to do to integrate and to implement and to do the fucking work themselves so that they are now congruent with the message that they're sharing or what they're teaching. I mean, it's our divine responsibility as teachers and leaders to show up in our greatest capacity for those that we are serving.
Yes. You're so right. Spiritual bypass needs to stop.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was you, but I think maybe when we went for dinner, you were talking about spiritual bypass. It's funny because I had an experience yesterday with someone that was like, oh, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. And I talked about something that we were getting them to commit to make happen by a certain date. Oh, if it's I'll see if it's meant to be. And I'm like, nah, it doesn't work like that. It's set it and get it. Like that's not going to work. And it frustrated me so much because I know that like, I think it triggered something in me because like I definitely was in that situation many, many years ago going, oh, we'll just let it happen. Look, you need a little bit of faith. You need to sprinkle faith on your business. You need to sprinkle faith on your, your life and your relationship. But don't spiritually bypass the things that definitely need you to step up and take action in, right? Like you need to make sure you map it out, and there needs to be intention. And so the vision allows you to do that. You can't run from this thing and use spiritual bypass when you have a vision that you mapped out in front of you.
Right. But it's the way in which you're describing the vision, right? Like this is, most people are like, oh yeah, I created this vision board and yeah, I've got it on my wall. It's like, okay, cool. And what are you doing about it? And what I mean by that is like, what are you doing every single day? Who are you being every single day? Are you in congruency with what you've placed on this vision board? Do you understand the gap between where you're at and where you want to be? And do you know what you need to do to fill that gap?
Yes. And going back to values, when you're aligned with your values, they're like your torch that's lit from within, right? You don't look for external motivation. You don't make excuses. You're living in this congruent space all the time. And I mean, just imagine like there's like this energy that's trying to flow through and you've got one pipe there. If you line 3 of them up, it's going to be even more powerful, right? Become a conduit for massive power and massive success. And so that's what your values do. So no more excuses. Align yourself with your values and step in.
Right. And do the fucking work.
Exactly. We have to keep putting an emphasis on that, right?
Yeah.
Because there's so many people that don't.
And it's crazy to me that we have to continue to put the emphasis on this because there's so many people bypassing this work. And I think that this personal development space has been glamorized so much.
Oh yeah. Preach. Preach.
That people just want to step into it and be Insta famous and preach like motivational talk with their pretty pictures. And it's like, where's the fucking depth and where's the real change that you're influencing or impacting? And has it even started within you? Like, are you doing what it is that you're telling other people to do? Are you showing up in a way that you are preaching other people to show up? Like it's the integrity and the congruency that is lacking, that once you start to fully own and represent from that place, that's when I feel the pieces start to connect and your message becomes louder and clearer and the impact is felt.
I mean, that leads into a really important part of even stepping into your vision. It's not about what you have, it's who you become in the process, right? That's the ultimate thing. That's the gift I've been given through the journey I've taken within the vision, is that if someone took everything away from me, if they took Addicted to Success away, my accolades and everything else, question is, how quickly can I get back to the top? I'd be able to do it a lot faster than I did when I first started out because it was who I've become, right? I have resources within me and around me I can tap into.
Right.
I know how to do that. And that's because I've practiced resourcefulness for many years now. Right. But, to look at like this whole significance thing that you're talking about, there's no point in getting all these likes if you don't like yourself. You don't need to like who you're becoming. You need to like the process. You need to like your friends around you. Like, I'm just all about creation, Ruby. It's creation. Like, what can we create? What kind of friendships can I create? Relationships can I create? What exciting things can we introduce into the business? I don't think I've used the word I'm bored in a good 10 years now, a decade.
Well, it's because you refuse to let yourself get to that place.
Oh yeah, it's a terrible place.
Why would anyone want to be in that place?
Terrible. I don't know anybody that's happy, that's stagnant. The key is progress. You look at nature, everything grows, right? It reaches up, it reaches out. It's progressing. Yeah. We need to do the same.
Everything is always evolving in our world. Everything changes. The chemistry of the air, the water, everything is constantly in momentum. And so when we stop, we are stunting what is naturally our like God-given way of being, of living on this planet.
Yes.
And this is why people experience stagnancy and then the depression and all the other things that kick in with it. And then they sit there on their asses wondering why. And it's like, well, it's because you're not fucking doing anything about it.
Yep.
Ownership. Stop bypassing.
That's a big one. Yep. I love it.
Cool. Well, we are nearing towards the end. So, what is something that you really, really want people to walk away from this podcast knowing?
I don't know if knowing is as important as doing, right? So we can I can listen to all the podcasts in the world. I have a podcast myself, It's great, like awesome.
It's really fucking awesome. Go subscribe.
Just a shameless plug in there.
Yeah.
But the doing is so important, right? The action. So I would challenge your listeners right now. If you're listening right now, I challenge you to, and it's so great that we can make this an actionable episode. Write those 4 questions down. What are you good at? What do you love? And what solution will you bring to the world? And then once you write that out, because that's the really important stuff. On top of that, how will you make money from this? Okay, write that down. And then when you've got clear on that, they're going to be your super core things that you're going to implement into your vision process. Answer those questions first. What would the ultimate version of you look like 10 years from now? When you start writing out your vision, your skeleton, and I say skeleton because we're building a body of the vision. You have the skeleton, which is your dot points, the meat, which is the adding in the details of what is it going to feel like? What's it going to look like? Like start getting more descriptive with it, setting some dates, right? When you're going to hit this, what month, 10 years from now, are you going to make this happen? What kind of people are you going to surround yourself with? And then on top of that, as you expand even more, you take a break from it, come back to it and add more detail in, you now create the skin of your vision. So you got your skeleton, meat, and skin. And so that becomes a body, and the skin is a super fine detail. It's going right down to what kind of skills would you wish to acquire? What kind of beliefs would you have to believe about yourself if you were playing at the highest level 10 years from now? What kind of habits would you have to have in place? And what are your values? What kind of values would you have to align yourself with? We have our own core values. And then there are also values where, if you want to get from A to D or A to Z, there are certain values you need to step into as well and start owning to be able to move to that space.
Definitely.
I'm always looking at opportunities now with wide eyes and ears open because I know what my vision is calling me to do. Right? I can see it. It's unfolded in front of my eyes. And I liken this to, I'm going to paint a little analogy for you here so you can understand it a little bit better and why the vision process is so important. Imagine a lava pit in front of you, right? We got 10 meters by 10 meter lava pit, and you have one big stepping stone that's 2 meters away. Sorry, I'm speaking in Aussie right here, talking meters instead of feet.
I'm Canadian, so I get it.
Break. Oh, you're Canadian, so that's good. So 2 meters away, you've got a stepping stone, and then another 2 meters away from that, you've got another big stepping stone. Imagine they're the only stepping stones you have. You're probably going to be quietly crapping yourself standing on the edge of that lava pit because you're not sure if you're going to be able to jump across and get to the other side. There's a high chance you're going to fall in. So that's what it's like when we're just kind of guessing in our own mind of what we think we need to do to get to where we need to be 10 years from now. Now just imagine you're mapping out your 10-year vision and you're filling in all these details. You got the meat in there, the skin, you're writing down the beliefs you'd have to hold, the habits you'd have to have in place, skills you'd have to hire or acquire to make happen. Now what you're doing is you're filling in even more detail. Your mind is a GGS. It's a goal-getting system, right? You map out the intention and it starts hard locking on the target. And you start noticing things. You become more aware and observant, right? We're just poor observers. That's our problem most of the time. So now we start observing and noticing what needs to be stepped into. So just imagine now you've got this lava pit in front of you and there's all these little stepping stones all over the place. You're not going to be as nervous, are you? You're going to step across till you get to the other side.
Right.
And that's because you've increased your certainty. And as you remove doubt, you increase faith. And that can be translated into so many areas of your life. But if we're just talking vision now, remove doubt, increase faith. Okay, that's the key here. And the way you remove doubt is you get even more clear. You create clarity in your life. You start setting intentions. The moment I mapped out my 10-year vision, I made a commitment that day. I got up and Jordan asked me to share it, declare it in front of the room. And I did. And it was such a powerful experience. I was kind of shaking a little bit and reading it out, the first couple paragraphs. But then I started getting this pep in my step and I started getting jazzed up and I was reading it with excitement. And it did something within me. I felt it on a cellular level. It wasn't just words on a paper. I could actually imagine myself living in it. And I was writing it in present tense. I am standing here in Bali, Indonesia, and I have all these things I mapped out. And so it's really important to feel it on that level if you really desire to step into that vision.
I love that you
So,
tie it into the feeling, because that I think is one of the biggest missing components to
absolutely
vision creation.
Absolutely. And you know what a vision is like? It's like, imagine you walking into a room. I like using analogies. I think it helps us to understand it even more. It's like walking into a room with your light on your iPhone. If you've got an iPhone or Android, whatever, your torch, right? Because I know most people don't walk around with a torch anymore. They have it on their phone. Your torch in your room and it's dark, right? You can only see so much in front of you. The vision is like turning the light switch on. That's what it's like.
Right.
So I remember 8 years ago when I mapped out my 10-year vision, the first thing I realized when I mapped it out is I realized that if I wanted to build, and it's funny because I wrote down I wanted to build a website that has 10 million views in 10 years. We've reached 143 million views in 8 years, right? So we like 14x that. And the reason being is because when I mapped out my vision, I realized that if I wanted to move at a faster pace, there was a big thing. I call it a major swing. You got to do this major swing, like a big hit within the first 30 days. So if you're listening right now, you have to place a big bet. There's something that's going to show up when you write out this 10-year vision, you know you have to do. It may mean like separating yourself from someone that is toxic, poisonous to you, or making a decision in your business that you thought you never have to make, right? It's just, there could be a number of different things. For me, it was leaving that job. It was leaving that sales job. They promoted me to one of the top floors. It was like level 27, looking over the city, rocked up to work every day with a suit on, had like 4 cups of coffee a day. I was hitting my KPI targets, reading Grant Cardone's sales books. I thought that was it.
Right.
But I realized after I cast my vision, this ain't it. This isn't it. I'm not there yet, right? And we never are, really. But I looked at it and I realized like, man, I need to do something. And that thing was leave that job. Even though it was comfortable and I was making at the time just under maybe like $80,000. I went and worked up north in the deserts of Western Australia with the environmental team on a construction site, catching snakes and lizards, kangaroos in 120 degree Fahrenheit weather, 12-hour days, 28 days straight, like 5 days off. It just back to back for double the income. For 140,000 a year. And the reason why I did that is because I knew that I needed that money to put back into my business. I knew that I needed that money to pay for trips, to go and work one-on-one with mentors, to buy reading material, to join courses, to learn. Yeah. And so that was the sacrifice that I made. And ultimately, I didn't look at it as a sacrifice. It was like a move that I did to fast track my success.
It was a move that you did to fill the gap.
To fill the gap. There you go, to get there faster. Yeah, absolutely right. So yes, if you're listening now, what is that major swing? Place bets on yourself, write out your 10-year vision, get the skeleton down, come back, fill in the meat, and then add the skin later. But yeah, make it exciting, make it fun. This is what it's about. It's about creating and having fun with it.
Definitely. So Joel, we're at the end of the podcast, and this is where I ask all of my guests to share what I call a love punch. So this is like a punchy, bold piece of advice, mantra, affirmation, whatever it is, something, a bite-sized something that is really going to kick people's asses into gear. So what is your love punch for today's episode?
Oh, that's a good one. I would say if you doubted your fears instead of doubting your dreams, imagine how much in life you would accomplish.
Boom.
Doubt your fears. That's it. Doubt your fears. Go all in on your dreams.
Done. Yeah. Thank you so much, Joel, for joining me on Love Punch. Why don't you tell our listeners how they can stalk you online?
You can stalk me at I am Joel Brown on my Instagram. You can check us out at Addicted to Success as well. That's addicted2success.com. That's the website. Obviously, the Addicted to Success podcast. We have a lot of amazing guests on there. Ruby's on there. Tony Robbins is on there. Deepak Chopra, Gary Vaynerchuk, Grant Cardone, Gabby Bernstein. All the fun and fancy stuff is on the website and the podcast. And look, you can reach out to me. I'm accessible for anything around vision right now. So reach out. I'll send you a login to my vision course.
Awesome.
And it's a 5-video breakdown. Reach out and I'll give you a login for that. So jump on it, and I'll speak to you guys soon. Generous. And Ruby, thank you.
Thank you so much, Joel,
You're
for
welcome.
joining me and just providing all the deep nuggets that you shared. I mean, I feel like this is such an actionable episode that I'm excited to see what comes out from it. So, to our listeners, thank you so much for joining us on today's episode of Love Punch, where I'm challenging thought leaders, influencers, and entrepreneurs like you to make a lasting impact. If you love this episode, share it with a friend. Don't forget to hit subscribe. And please reach out to me and Joel and let us know how things go with your vision. Just reach out to me at I am Ruby, and I will see you back here next week for a brand new episode of Love Punch.